in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.
Hello and good morning. Welcome to the Moving Iron Podcast. And this is the Wednesday morning show, and this is something I'm going to start doing here with my good buddy Brent Carlson from Dryline Farmer Podcast. So Brent and I have been kind of grown our relationship here over the last, 2, 3, 4 months, something like that, and we've been on each other's shows back and forth, and I really enjoy Brent's show. He's got a pretty funny take on what's going on in agriculture, and then he got his buddy old Landon on there, but Landon's not with us this morning, but it's a good quality show. So, Brent, welcome to the show.
That was awful touching. I don't know where to go from here. I'm kind of getting teary-eyed over here.
Well,
that's a special relationship you've conjured up right there.
I'd like to pull at the heartings, Brent.
You do.
Start off early in the morning that way.
I've actually got wires going to my heartstrings right now. This thing comes off in like 6 hours, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
Right on.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I'm looking forward to seeing where this thing goes. We're talking about anything and everything. It's like, I know when you and I discussed about doing this, I'm like, man, we got to do. Let's do it. Let's do it energetic. Let's do it upbeat. I mean, we can talk trash on whoever and whatever, but Everybody's kind of in a sour mood across the marketing aspect anyway. Corn's down, and at least down here it stopped raining back in, I don't know what, May, and then nobody thought it would stop raining in the Midwest, and now it stopped raining, and then they needed rain, and then they got too much. It's all over the place. So we're here to lift everybody's spirits at the very least. At the very least.
So the idea behind this whole deal here is that Brent and I are just going to take a look at some stuff that's going on in the news, hit some topics every week, and then just show the lighter side of how messed up the world actually is right now. So, Brent, why don't you?
That's not very positive.
That's very positive because we're gonna have a funny spin on the shit show that we call the news right now. Because I don't know about you, Brent, but I listen to the news now and I've kind of almost tuned it out. Other than the markets, it's all over the place, and you don't know. You have to listen to 5 different places to get the entire truth and the whole story. So, it's a fun world we're living in now. That's for sure.
I used to watch the news all the time, and then literally after Trump got elected, and I don't know. I think everybody's the same way. I watch the news in the morning and catch the highlights, which I do listen to talk radio, which is a little different. I mean, it's not just news; it's opinion, or it's not. It's mostly opinion,
right?
But and I listen to the entertaining guys. I don't. I listen to Beck in the morning, but they're pretty entertaining. They're not just. I mean, he gets sometimes when he starts crying, I have to turn it. But most of the right now, he's probably doing his 9/11 reflection, which is always pretty touching. But
right.
I'll listen to him, and then I'll go to some sports and everything, and hopefully baseball will be on by then. So, but the news cycle has just gotten so. I mean, it's just so washed out, so saturated that. Everybody's saying the same thing, and even really in talk radio too. I mean, it's just rehashed stuff over and over again. But,
I was at Talk Radio Junkie too, man, where you would start in the morning and you listen to the first show, and by the end of the day, you realize you listened to the same show 5 times or 4 times or however many shows you listen to, and I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So,
is Hannity doing another show again at 8:00 tonight? Oh no, that's just Mark. I want to know how Mark Levin has a radio. I mean, he's a smart cat, but that dude's voice sounds like somebody's got him by a sphincter and just pulling on him during the entire segment, screaming and that high pitch. I don't know how the dude. I guess he's so smart that it doesn't matter what his voice sounds like.
He's a pretty intelligent fellow, that's for sure. But
yeah, he's smart, but he sounds like a munchkin in Wizard of Oz.
Well,
screaming.
Probably some truth to that. So, all right, man, let's jump over and talk about some markets real quick. So, for those of you who don't know, Brent's handle on Twitter is Trader Brent, and Brent is he does do some trading. He farms out in the panhandle of Texas, down there around Hereford Hereford, Texas, and so he does do some, obviously marketing his own grain and those kind of things. But he also likes to play with the casino of that we like to call the commodity market. So, Brent, what's going on in the markets right now, bud?
Well, we'll start out here with the. I'm trying to figure out what kind of cadence or rhythm I'm going to do, like the radio people do.
Yeah.
Because like they talk throughout, they're talking back and forth like you and I are, and then they get into the market and they like get into this auctioneer cadence.
Oh yeah, it's very much an auctioneer cadence. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to do it in Spanish or maybe a little French lingo. I don't know. But until I nail that down, we're going to look at agriculture and, of course, everything. So right now I've just got the kind of the front months up here on the board here. Corn's down 1/4 cent there at 3.61, and wheat, Chicago is 4.80 down 1.75 pennies. Soybeans, November 8 cents. I've never done this. This is weird, Casey. Soybeans in the November contract. Hope you're not long. 2 cents lower because it's at 8.70. Cotton number 2 because cotton has been taking a number 2 for the last 3 months.
That's no kidding.
And that's why it's at 59.40, and that's up 6 cents. And mind you, this is my delayed quote screen, so I'm really professional. But what I'm really looking at this morning, Casey, is the coffee market.
Right on.
And the December, I don't know if December is even the lead contract month, but it has had 9,022 contracts traded. It is, and I don't even know what this number is. It's 103.80, and I don't know if that's 103. Let's see. I'm going to pull up the contract specifications, but it's up $2.20 whatevers. Let's see. Okay, we're going to go down to the contract. So this is the contract specifications on coffee. It's Arabica coffee. It's 37,500 pounds per contract. Tick size is 5 cents per pound, and let's see. The point value, every point is $375. So every contract is $37,500, Casey. So that means that's got to be a hundredweight, doesn't it?
I would say so.
Yeah, I would think so. So it's $103.95 is the high today on the coffee. Massive breakout, Casey. It was down there, and to all you coffee growers out there in Iowa, and I think Southern Illinois has got a heavy concentration of coffee. Or what about Nebraska Panhandle? They probably got some coffee concentration, don't they?
Well, there's a lot of people that concentrate during their coffee in the morning. I know that.
Well, as far, of course, everybody, it's really literally broken out. It's like $5, broken out $5, which looks like a big move for coffee. But back into our relevant commodities here. Yeah, we're all waiting on the report tomorrow. I guess it's probably at 11 o'clock. And I don't really think, I don't see how it's going to really change much. Between now and last month, it's ought to be pretty flat. In my non-expert opinion, but I figure, surely they can't really. You wouldn't think they could add more acres to it. At the which I thought that the last report, and I was dead ass wrong because I got a bunch of calls next to worthless, so that's pretty bonus. But soybeans, I'm not a soybean guy. I've traded the spreads and I've traded the market, but we can't grow soybeans down here because it's dry AF. So soybean, you got lots of soybeans around you, don't you, Casey?
Not. If you go east of me a little bit, when you get about east of like Imperial or Ogallala, Nebraska, you start going east of there, you start hitting more soybeans. The altitude out here is pretty high, so they run into some issues with that.
You're a lot like us then, yeah. So and of course we've got cotton down here, and fortunately we did some contracting back before it broke. That's the wife. So hopefully there's not something bad going on. But there was a lot. I'm still shocked at the cotton market because everywhere in the country where there's heavy cotton areas, the southeast, they were burning up all spring and good part of the summer. And then the Delta, where they have a lot of cotton, it got flooded in that one tropical system that went up through there. And then South Texas, they're not having a good crop. And the southeast that once was burning up got a lot of rain, but then they went to burning up again. So they're pretty light in cotton. And up here in the South Plains of Texas, we're kind of, Hereford is where we're at. And, of course, we're a little north of Lubbock, about 100 miles. Which Lubbock is the center of all the cotton country. And their cotton crop is pretty crap. Yep. And, even up here, which nobody cares about, Texas, mid to upper Texas Panhandle cotton, there's just not enough acres to affect the market. I don't know how many, like our GM did 100. Oh, well, the GM we go to, it did over 100,000 bales last year, and it'll probably maybe do 30 or something this year. So we lost probably, as hard enough as it is to believe, we lost probably 70% of our cotton at planting, or after planting time, due to too much rain and cool weather, which is mind-boggling looking back through the summer. But what we have, we never really got to water because we're too busy committed to corn. But it's it looks pretty good. It's got a decent load on there. So, but I guess it's just got to be all demand side because and trading stories, because the supply, at least this new crop, is pretty garbage.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the cotton market and you start looking at the key growing areas of India and Australia and those places like that. Again, they've had really dry weather. Had dry weather that have affected their ability to grow, and now India they're in the monsoon season right now, so now they are they've had the best of both worlds, too dry, now it's entirely too wet on their cotton crop. So really kind of very indicative of the overall health of the world financial markets, and what that looks like as far as how cotton relates back to people's pocketbooks and buying clothes and those kind of things. So it's a strange market right now, no doubt about it.
See, the India thing, that's my whole big question. I'm wondering, because they've got over 1 billion people in that place, and either they're not willing or what. I mean, I know we're allies and everything, but you would think that would be the number one. That would be the number one option, other than China, to go sell as much ag products as you could possibly get rid of. I mean, obviously, it's a non-beef country just for the religious fact, but and I don't know. I bet that's probably shrinking a little bit, but they've got over 1 billion people. You would think that they could use everything we could sell them, but I guess they got to be able to buy it,
right?
Which I bet we'd float them alone if we had to. So
we floated everybody else alone. It's funny how we borrow money from everybody else to lend to somebody else. That's it's a trick.
Well, I mean, we import and export oil.
Right.
I mean, and it's pretty much. As far as I know, I'm not a petroleum engineer, but oils. I mean, you got your Brent crude and your sweet crude, but how many different crudes are there?
Yeah, you got your Brent. That's the world. That's the world kind of
North Sea and all that.
Yeah, that is the world like standard, right? And then you got West Texas WTI, West Texas Intermediary, and those are going to be that's your. Because Texas, is Texas, right? So they got their own
American, basically,
right? Yeah. And that's your American market. So they would consider Brent to be sweet crude that's coming out of Saudi Arabia and those kind of things, and then how that stacks up against there. So normally, when you look at Brent crude compared to West Texas, there's usually a pretty good difference between the two as far as that goes. And every state, like Kansas, has got a crude market, Kansas crude and those kind of things. So it's and each one of those are like, usually Kansas crude's about $10 off of West Texas, and West Texas usually $10 off of Brent. There's a spread there, and it's all based on the quality and this, that, and the other thing. And my dad's been in the oil field business forever, and I'm sure he could explain it to me if I ever wanted to truly sit down and listen to him talk about it. But I always feel like there's more important things to talk about, like football, for example. That's always a good topic around the house.
Of course.
So,
Antonio Brown, he's got a whole new set of problems I noticed this morning.
Oh, really? There's more greatness coming out of that guy, huh?
There's sexual allegations against him now.
Oh boy, that's just the gift that keeps on giving.
I mean, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I don't know. All I did was read the headline about it, but Antonio Brown accused of rape in the civil lawsuit. So yeah, that's more bad news for that guy. So
he's done so much to help himself. You know what I mean? He's just
he's his own worst enemy. I mean.
Come on,
nobody but him can get in front of him. So because he's a awesome athlete to say the least. Right, dude can freaking straight up box out and run away from people. So yeah. That's why I like to turn over to the ESPN page, because man, it is just if nothing else, the colors. I really like the colors. Yeah, you got your oranges and your reds and your blues. It's just more uplifting than the Drudge Report is just black and white.
Yeah, that ESPN thing really captures your attention.
It does.
Because, I mean, another part of it, too, is they have to capture your attention, because you can only talk about a baseball story for so long before, it's baseball,
Or you can talk about how France just eliminated Team USA from the World Cup. Not that really most anybody cares. Because it is. Wait a minute. That is basketball? That's basketball. Why do they call it the World Cup? And why did we get beat in basketball let alone from France? Russia or Ukraine or any Balkan state I can see, because they're all 1,000 foot tall. But France?
Yeah, well, the world's kind of catching up, man. The world's catching up in the old basketball days. It's not 1992 anymore.
Yeah. France defeated Team USA 89-79, and I wonder if that's metric score. In the FIBA, is it FIBA? FIBA World Cup quarterfinals, snapping the U.S.'s 58-game winning streak in international tournaments. Oh, that was nice. With NBA players on the roster. That's a whole bunch of I don't care. That's what that is. You're an I don't care bear.
Yeah,
France has defeated Team USA 89-79 in the FIBA World Cup quarterfinal at Dongguan, China. Wow. What losers was on that team? Evan Fournier, Rudy Gobert.
Their team's pretty stacked.
That's the
French.
That's the French dudes. Yeah, I'm guessing they didn't have basically the Golden State, because the Golden State Warriors could pretty much beat any All-Star international team, you would think.
They're pretty
or
stacked.
even Toronto, which they're Canadian, but yeah, I don't know. You should stay undefeated forever until we get bombed by like Liechtenstein or something.
Yeah, I don't know. The world's catching up on the basketball stage. Even China's got.
I guess so.
I mean, you got Yao Ming. They like, Yao Ming's mom and dad were both like
champion chopstickers.
they were all basketball players, and the idea they wanted. That's how they got Yao Ming. So he's got, you don't see too many Chinese folks that are 6'7" or however tall he is.
Oh hell no! Yao Ming was like
6'10".
over 7 feet, dude.
Oh, was he that tall?
Oh yeah, he was a center. Yao Ming. Oh yeah, Yao Ming was 7'5". Yeah.
So he's kind of a short fella.
Yeah, he kind of on the short stick.
Yeah.
Net worth $120 million. He's 38 years old. I didn't know he was right at my age. Spouse was Yi Li. Children Yao Qin Li Ming, and parents Yao Jiwan and Fang Fingdi.
Hey, your Chinese is
that
pretty
whole
good.
Fingdi family, they're all tall.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
Don't even get me started on the Juans,
All right.
They were kind of outlaws. Yeah.
All right. You got a duck in the background. Look out. All right, Brent. So you want to jump into this story about livestock operations in Nebraska that some guys jumping up and down about that could actually have a big ripple effect on the entire state's cattle production, or do you want to go into John Bolton?
Yeah, let's do this cattle guy because the plant that went on fire and went offline that really helped the cattle producer as it was.
Yep.
So cattle plant in Nebraska.
All right. So there's a guy in Fremont, Nebraska, which is on the very eastern side of the state, not too far from Lincoln, or kind of I think it's in between Lincoln and Omaha, maybe. But anyhow, he's suing basically a confinement situation up there where. He has a petition set up where they're going to basically try to stop all confinements, and his big rub came in when Costco, and I'm getting this from AgWeb, by the way, so the headline is proposal could stop new livestock operations in Nebraska. And so he got all fired up when Costco came in and opened up a poultry plant because they are getting into the chicken business, so they're going to grow their own chicken to sell. And so he got pretty fired up about that. So now they're going around trying to get this deal out of here, and he claims that the zoning regulations are 40 years out of date and need to be revised. So I don't know, man. This is one of those things where the purpose of agriculture is in the U.S. is to build a cheap, safe, readily available food source, and this is I think this is another one of those opportunities for activists to jump in that don't understand what they're talking about, and try to disrupt stuff. And you start talking about $9 hamburgers at the grocery store, you're gonna have a problem. So I guess you're a cattle guy. What's your thought on this, and kind of what's your approach to this whole thing?
Well, I think it's pretty much like anything else nowadays. When people form a lawsuit, it's always for a bigger reason, and they're trying to stop. I mean, this guy's obviously trying to, probably a vegan or vegetarian guy, and he's probably trying ultimately to stop all animal production. It's what is my conspiracy theory.
Right.
He goes into it says he's leading the charge against animal operations. To help stop. And here, this is the old cliche: to help stop corporate takeover of Nebraska family farms, or you can replace Nebraska with American family farms. what's the actual number that farms are actually still owned by families? It's like in the vast majority is still owned by, small families or individual families. So, right there, it's already pretty skeptical to believe this guy because, that's just simply not true.
Right.
And, Costco's a big outfit, obviously, especially when they open a poultry processing plant. But, don't even get me started on the whole conspiracy on the packers and versus the producers and the grocers and everything as far as in the beef market. But, it's just another avenue for these people to try to do an in run around, traditional agriculture. And, I'm all for making, outfits or not processing facilities, ethical and all that good stuff and clean and safe for animals and the people that work there and everything, keeping all that in line. But at the same time, this only, like any other major policy, it's going to affect low-income people more than anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
It always does. It always will. It always has. And that's just the way it's going to be. And so, you get on down the story, it says some of these ag groups in the state see this petition as an attack against not only this single poultry operation, but against the entire livestock industry. It could set a dangerous precedent for Nebraska and other states. So, here where we live at Hereford, outside of Hereford is where our house is, but Hereford's surrounded by feed yards, and it's a pretty if it's a windy day in the middle of the spring, which every day in the spring here is windy, but it blows all day, and then the wind lays down, and it's calm, and there's just a haze over the city, and it's not just dirt; it's manure and dirt, and it doesn't look good, and you can certainly smell it, you can certainly feel it in your lungs, and there's even been a couple feed yards there that have tried to install sprinkler systems that would settle the dust, and it's like pouring a drop into the Sahara Desert. It's just you're never going to be able to put enough on there to settle the dust. So and when people drive through, they're going to see that haze of dirt and manure, and it's pretty hard to argue when they can just point and see, yeah, look at that. When you actually go to a feed yard, it's if you're not used to it, it'll knock you down until you do get used to it. So I guess I don't know what the answer is for those guys as far as dust and air quality is concerned, but not shutting them down is not one of them.
No,
because it's only going to make the supply of beef and cheaper foods harder to come by. So which is you're damned if you do, if damned if you don't, because you're a producer, you want the most money you can for your product, yet you're promoting the fact that we need a cheap and very accessible food supply. So,
right.
There's got to be a happy medium somewhere.
Yeah, that's the same people that complain about all that stuff that you're talking about aren't complaining much when they go to their local steakhouse and get that ribeye, and they're sitting back enjoying that and or grilling on the weekends or whatever it is they're doing. I think that's just the disconnect between the average American and agriculture. Good example right here at the bottom of that article. It says they're talking about the Costco operation that started the discussion would house more than 500,000 chickens in 12 barns. Now, so when you read that sentence, you're like, oh, 500,000 chickens in 12 barns. Somebody from, you name major city United States that sees 500,000 chickens in 12 barns, they're thinking the very stereotypical red barn that you see in every picture on the farm, right?
Right.
Not these barns that are 400 yards long that have that are just stacked, that are full of that'll be full of these chickens. They're thinking like, oh, they're just piling these things in there, and I'm not going to sit there and say that they don't, but what's in their mind, their image they have in their mind is quite different than what it actually is.
Well, they've all seen Napoleon Dynamite.
Well, yeah, and that's a good place to start with that. Yeah.
They think all the farmers are feeding their hands, raw egg milkshakes.
Right, and they've got talons, so.
Yeah, they've got talons and they pay them in change, which, I guess if it gets much cheaper, they will be getting paid in change.
I forgot my...
The best thing about that movie that I noticed as a farmer or, grew up on a farm is that Napoleon, they have a DTN satellite dish on their house.
Yep. There's lots of nuggets in that show, man. As a JUCO football player, Napoleon's wearing a Valley of the Sun Bowl T-shirt. And I saw that the other day, and I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist anymore, but back I played in that bowl game when 1997, I think.
Really?
And so that was kind of cool to see that shirt. But that show is funny. I forgot my checkbook, but I kind of pay you in change.
He does like two pats on the front of his overalls. It's like, but forgot my checkbook. Hope you don't mind. I'll pay you in change. Yeah. He's not checking for his checkbook. He knows he's to bring his checkbook.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
Oh yeah. It took me 2 times to catch that, to really get that movie. The first time I'm like, what's the big deal? And now I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I get it.
It's funny.
I get it. That is a cult ultimate instant classic.
Yep.
Especially as a farm kid. Yeah, that was pretty. And that was came out I think right after I graduated, and we got everybody. So I went to had some buddies that went to A&M, and they have a huge chili fest down there. It's like 30,000 people, and they have big concerts, whatever. It's outside, and they have chili teams, and everybody had a Napoleon Dynamite themed team chili cooking shirt. So yeah. For Pedro's and all this and that. Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah. But I guess
redneck Woodstock.
Right. So I guess the important thing here, folks, is these articles, you see them and you're like, this is the most absurd thing I ever had, but don't put this to the side, man. This is stuff that we need to keep in front of us and make sure that we don't let this go away, because this is the kind of stuff that can wreck the entire market, and it's getting harder and harder to get the public's opinion of agriculture to be positive. It seems like every time I turn around, there's some craziness going on. So,
as producers and everything on our side of the deal, you got to be intelligent about the way you argue these things. You can't really do the simple or the the old school arguments of you want a cheap food supply, don't you? But yet we want a lot of money for our product. So you really got to think this argument through when you're debating this thing. And like I said, don't go into debate with somebody. Just all you're concerned about is showing that they're wrong. You just tell them the truth about what's going on, and it'll speak for itself. So that's just a basic common idea that that you really ought to follow. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so now let's jump over to this next story. We were both kind of talking about this morning. So I got this morning, started checking the news stories, kind of looking around what's going on. And lo and behold, Donald Trump has fired another member of his staff. And old John Bolton got the axe because he didn't necessarily. This is the article I'm reading, so take it for what it's worth. But basically, John Bolton got fired because he didn't really agree with the president going and talking to the Taliban, which what could possibly go wrong there? You know what I mean? There's only good things are going to come from that. So, I think this is one of those things where I don't know that talking to a bunch of guys that are famous for cutting people's heads off and flying planes into buildings. I think there's probably a bigger picture here that you probably really, there's no need to, I guess, talk or sit down and try to hash out some kind of peace plan with a bunch of savages, because they don't think or operate like everybody else does. So I guess what's your opinion of that, Brent? And I guess what do you think of all this?
Yeah, you can't. It's just, you put it just right. You can't negotiate with a savage that people do that, because they have absolutely no interest in debate, or not debating, but agreeing with you. In this instance, the Taliban, their sole purpose is to kill all non-believers.
Right.
I mean, that's their sole purpose. That's who they are. That's why they're the Taliban, to eliminate all non-believers in what they're believing in. So it's, of course, with Trump, nothing should shock you anymore. I mean, with Trump, he's the biggest wild card there ever was. But I love this AP story. The subtitle of it is "Inside Bolton's Exit," and that could be "That's what she said" deal. But and the following: Mongolia, a mustache, a tweet. That's inside his exit. So that's kind of all double entendre. So John Bolton, he's a pretty big war hawk. He don't mind blowing stuff up, and it's kind of his forte. But Cat is smart, and he did a great job when he was in the UN as an ambassador. So, a lot of this I'm on his side, because you can't deal with the Taliban, and but you said he was against the North Korean deal, and I know, like if you know your history, FDR, negotiated with Stalin, and God Almighty, Stalin has killed more people than even Hitler. And outside of Mao Zedong, Stalin killed more people than about anybody in history, maybe except for Genghis Khan.
Right.
And Genghis Khan, dude had some game. He had, they said 10%, I don't know, 10%, like 2 or 3% of the entire global population could be traced back to his progeny.
Right.
So, yeah, he's like the ultimate sire bull for, club cap operations. But, yeah, so I'm with you. You can't negotiate with these as savages because anybody that can do that, I mean, they're psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever you want to call it. And, what goes on behind closed doors in the White House, regardless of the administration, would probably blow our mind. But, now it's just taken to a new level. And I think that's with social media and everything. And, everybody's got instant access to all the information. It's pretty hard to get a straight line story on what's going on. But, Trump has really turned, he's really put a bright light, and everybody's a whole lot less timid to really say what they think or, do a shock value tweet. I mean, the power of his keyboard or his phone is, it's more powerful than many smaller countries, control centers for their military. I mean, like you said earlier, I trade quite a bit and everything. And in the end, your trades are always on you, whether you make money or lose money. But dude has blown me out of the water a couple times with just a tweet.
Oh yeah.
Like I was long crude. And I hadn't tried, and I hadn't played crude in months. And the next day, it was down $5. And I can't remember if he directly had something to do with the story or whatever. But that's $5,000. I just had one contract. That's $5,000 in 10 minutes.
Yep.
I just plummeted. And then he did another one. And I trade the S&P and stuff. And you got to have your stops in there and everything. But, dude will blow you through your stops just with a tweet, come back. And I know that's nothing new. That'll happen to anybody. Any news story can do that to you. But it's made, for me, and I know some other people, I know a lot of other people, he's made it hard to trade in certain situations. Now, yes, you do have to have your stops in place. But he's really jacked the volatility in some of these markets, and I know and I like volatility. If you're a trader, you love volatility, but there's volatility, and then there's this. Yeah. So, and you can't. How do you hedge against a tweet? You don't. I guess you always try to hedge against any kind of, market story or whatever that might change your trade. But dude has made it hard.
Yeah,
harder than it already is.
Yeah, it's already tough. Then you got these outside things and especially something like that. You and I put a tweet out, no one pays attention to it. He puts a tweet out, and it completely changes the course of the financial markets and the way corn's traded and all this stuff. So, they're supposed to go back to the table here. Is at the end of this month or the first of next month? I can't remember when it is with China, and start, we're going to be friends again. We're all friends again. And, we had just some little things to work out, so on and so forth. And every time this comes up, we're 2 weeks away from a deal and so on and so forth. But
I have 1,767 followers. Nobody listens to me. He's got how many million?
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, I promise you, he'll put a tweet out 3 days before and talking about how China sucks or something like that, and like he always does, and then all of a sudden it just goes sideways. So I gotta really believe that they have some level of a deal put out. They just can't agree on who's going to come out the winner, because each one of them want to be the winner. You know what I mean? And how do I spin it to be I'm the winner and I made China crumble and bow down to me, and then China's going to go back to their citizenry and their Politburo and everybody else and be like, see, we beat back the big Americans. And I'm just so I would wish it would just end and go back.
Trump, he's kind of that. He wants to be right, and he wants to win the debate. Yep. And I'm always on the don't know what side of the fence to be on. I guess that's terrible to say, but at one hand, everybody loves Trump, and then he does these tariffs, and the market breaks, or the ag markets break, and then people start flipping and saying, well, what the hell? He's breaking these tariffs off in us. And then at the same time, everybody's acting like China is the one that's acting in good faith. Like if Trump would just stop tariffing them, they would, and stop trying to screw China, we can get back to normal.
Right.
Well, why do we have how much $1 trillion trade deficit or multi-billion-dollar trade deficit with China if they're acting in such good faith? They're playing it smart because they're pointing over. It's like, look at what he's doing. He's trying to be crazy. He's trying to be crazy with us.
Yeah.
We're trying to act in good faith, and he keeps throwing these tariffs at us. Like they're the ones that are not trying to do the same thing. They have gotten so used to screwing us on the trade deal.
Oh yeah.
That it's like we're not going to. Why would we screw up a good thing? We're not going to break something that's not fixed from our perspective.
Right. Yeah. That's the one thing too. Is I mean, China's gotten over on us for years. 20, 30 years, and it's just.
And they need us worse than. Yeah, and they need us worse than we need them. I mean, we need them. We need their market, but they need us worse.
Yep.
They've got over 1 billion people to feed, and they can't get over the fact that they're always going to be communist and they're always going to be controlling everybody. And they are perfectly content letting a few million people starve. They've proved it in the past.
Yep.
And it's like you said earlier. People just don't think. Americans think on a different level. Not so much superior. Well, maybe it's why we are number one. But everybody in the world doesn't think on the same level. They don't think the same way. They don't think the same way. That's how you should say it.
Yeah.
It's just, you go over to some countries, which we got a guy that works for us. He's been over to Africa to do ministry. And I asked him, are they just always going to be poor? Is Africa just always going to be poor? He's like, they just don't think the same way we do. That's not how they think.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost content with just, going along and to get along and just surviving. And they just don't think about getting ahead. And I mean, that's just one, that's not generalization, but where he goes, that's just not how they think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different mindset around the world, man. I mean,
just different mindsets.
It's just, this country was founded on folks that are going to show up every day and try to make themselves better or get ahead or do whatever. And you can say that we have an individualistic mindset, and maybe that's true. But
until you get on social media.
Right. Yeah. So, well, Brent, I think we've solved most of the world's problems here, man. I feel like we've.
Oh, thank God.
I think we've just completely. Tomorrow's going to be a better day, that's for sure. So.
Yeah, it won't be worse.
You got any final thoughts you want to throw out there before we shut it down?
Oh man, not really. Just like I said earlier, be intelligent with your when you're talking to somebody who doesn't agree with you, especially when you're a producer and trying to kind of promote or speak for the ag community. Be intelligent and be agreeable. Don't be disagreeable, because that doesn't get you anywhere. All it does is drive you that much closer to alcoholism.
Right on. Yep. All right, folks. Today is September 11th, so think about where you were that day, and remember all the troops out there that have made the ultimate sacrifice for what we're doing. So it's been 18 years since that's happened. It's hard to believe that, but keep that in the forefront of your mind today as you're going out and doing your stuff. So God bless America, and God bless the troops that are out there fighting these group of folks,
these evil
that
forces,
are just are heinous people. So. Brent, take care of yourself, and we'll talk again next week, bud.
All right, man. We'll see you.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years, you'll find us here.